You're listening to the BSI Future Learning Series podcast.
Hello and welcome to BSI's first podcast. I'm Simon Dewar, the Group CEO of BSI Learning, and this is the first episode in our Future Learning Series. In this series, we're going to be talking about technology, the impacts on business and our working lives, and then honing in to what this means for learning solutions and our people. Ultimately, this series is about the link between those business challenges and team capability, and basically the readiness to face those challenges as we move into the future. Each episode, we're going to be covering a different topic and bringing in experts, both inside of BSI and externally, to offer their insights, opinions, and most importantly, some practical tips and thought starters to support organisations and learning teams and professionals to get started. More than anything, we want this series to be useful and add value, and so we'll be working hard to gain feedback and hone in the way we do things, as well as some novel ways to have a little fun along the way. For our very first episode, we're here to discuss cybersecurity, and we're going to do this from a macro level through to a more micro level, and hopefully we'll leave today with some practical ideas and tips for how organisations can be both more cyber aware but also cyber ready, meaning they're going to be prepared for the risks and threats that are constantly evolving in the cyber world. Now, cyber has come a long way from just protecting one's password, and although this is still a very important thing for us to do, the field has kind of grown exponentially in line with our digital lives, our workplaces, working from home, and I guess all the systems and tools that go with our more complex working lives. The World Economic Forum Global Risks Report for 2023 listed widespread cyber crime and cyber insecurity as the 8th greatest risk facing the world. That's sitting just behind failure of climate change adaptation, and just ahead of natural resource crises that we all know are the big ticket items facing the world. And more recently, the Australian Signals Directorate reported over 94,000 incidents. That's one every 6 minutes with regard to cyber incidents. There's some pretty sobering facts. So with that in mind, I'd like to kick things off today, and I'll introduce our two guests. First, we have Carla Phillip, who is my dear colleague and CEO of BSI Learning Institute. Carla has spearheaded our new cybersecurity qualification programs and attended the G20 recently to discuss the need for cyber education. Carla has championed the need for global uplift in cyber skills internationally and is behind our cyber education strategy, which recently launched in both India and Australia. Thanks for joining us, Carla. I don't know if you want to say a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Simon, for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this today and add a bit more to the conversation. My recent travels have already brought this to be a global issue. It's not just a national issue, and looking forward to contributing to the conversation ahead.
Great. Thanks, Carla. Next, we have Damien Cantelo. He's the CEO of Apollo and has spent many of his years as a cyber consultant supporting big businesses to build out their cyber strategies. This led him to develop his own cybersecurity solutions for the SME market, known as Apollo, supporting business to get their cyber affairs in order. That includes things like your policies, monitoring, real-time reporting, which we'll ask him a little bit about later today. Great to have you here, Damien.
Great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, we're on a mission to make sure that small to mid-sized organisations can improve their cyber maturity without blowing the budget, essentially. So, they're on the receiving end of a lot of these attacks these days. So we're giving them the tools necessary to defend themselves properly. Nice one.
Brilliant. So I guess we should just really get into it and kick off today. I'm going to start with our first question with you, Carla. And I guess we want to sort of start from that bird's eye view. And my first question really is, how big is the challenge of cybersecurity for modern organisations? From what you've been exposed to, what are you seeing?
So from my recent 3 months of work and especially consultation with industry, attending a G20, it's really evident that the global cost of cybercrime is actually going towards $8 trillion in 2023. A business takes about 277 days to recover from a cyber incident. That's literally a year of business impact. And the forecast, or the global forecast, is about 497 million records will be stolen. So it's described as cybercrime is old wine in new bottles. It's not about breaking a lock, entering and stealing money, but cybercrime can happen from anywhere by anyone in any country. Last week, ASIC released the Cyber Pulse report for 2023 about corporate Australia. it was very evident. 44% of corporates don't have an incident response plan. 58% of corporates do not have a standard to follow for cybersecurity. We have about 20% that do not know how to manage their third-party suppliers or their risk, supply chain risk, for example. And quite a large portion of them do not have skilled and qualified personnel. So it is an issue that's taken or brought global attention.
And it sounds like it's more than really just what it used to be, is how do we manage a series of threats? It really feels like the challenge is a lot more broad than that. And I think people are only really just starting to really understand it. Damien, what are your thoughts in terms of, the actual threats we're seeing now versus, what we were a little while ago?
I think what's changed a lot is now the hackers are realizing that these supply chain risks that Carla mentioned, because of the hyper-connected nature of the internet, hackers can compromise a smaller organization and pivot their attack into a larger organization. So instead of going through the front door at a bank, they could compromise a network that's plugged into the bank, and that's an easier way to get in there. So that's certainly changed the nature and the dynamic of who's the target and who needs to defend themselves. So that's been quite significant. And another one is the automated nature of the attacks as well. So these drive-by attacks that are less targeted, these nefarious groups using automated tools and artificial intelligence just to exploit networks, that changes the landscape somewhat as well.